once again. I figured I have a long drive ahead still. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my first gravel race experience at Roubaix here in Michigan. So I signed up for this a little while ago because I wanted to try something new. New in a sense that I ride my bike often, but I've never really raced a gravel bike race. And I have a cyclocross bike, but it's good enough for this kind of race. I just need to like alter some stuff around it. Anyhow, I've been kind of training on the bike, but not as sufficiently as I thought I should, given that I signed up for the 100-mile race. The other options were like 36. I felt that was too short. 62, a little shorter still. If there would have been like an 80-mile race, I probably would have done that instead, but alas, here we are. The only option was like the 100-mile race. Anyhow, so we got here yesterday afternoon for pack and pickup, and sure enough, it was quicker than any other pack and pickup I've ever done. And then luckily, us 100-milers are the first ones to go this morning at 7 a.m. And I was stressing about what to wear because historically speaking, weather has been a hit or miss for this. It used to be in March, and there's been years that would be like so cold, even snowing, rain, and all that. But you know, now it's April, and oddly we've had this very summer-like weather, and it's also been very warm out here. Anyhow, high today was around 80 something, I think. But the good part is that we started at 7, which is early, and me not being an early morning person, that was quite painful to go through. Anyhow, I made it there just on time. I could have used extra time to figure some stuff out, but when I was at the hotel, I was trying to use a porta potty, but I can't force myself to like just go like that. But when I got to the venue, sure enough, you know, I sat down for a minute, got the junk out of my system, and then I lined up and off we went. So I lined up fairly too far back. I should have stayed close to the middle, or a little, you know, middle to front. But I really didn't know what to expect, so I tried to play the conservative card and started back there. So, you know, it was an easy start. We're all horsing around a little bit, soft pedaling, and air was cool still. And then, sure enough, eventually we hit gravel, and they had these 3 bitches section, which is like 3 moderate like gravel climbs. I personally feel they were not any bad or miserable. The hard part about it was that because for one, it's gravel. It can be very slippery, especially that depending on tire choice, you may not have enough traction. Yeah, and then you might be sliding around, and there's also a tendency to like go a little bit hard at the beginning. Everybody does it. You know, and then I purposely put a power meter on my bike so that I can gauge the effort I put in. But even if, you know, I'm trying to go slow, right? But the energy is still there, so you gotta just go along with it and then try not to overdo it. So that passed, and it was a quick, like the first 20 miles like flew by quick enough. You know, we're like, oh man, if it's gonna be like this, we'll be done in like, you know, early. And sure enough, we hit this section into the woods, and the sandy parts, oh my goodness, I had no choice, man, but to like hike the bike. Really had no choice. I mean, my handling skills are not so good right now because this is my second time on gravel roads. The first one was last weekend, and first time on this race too, so I really didn't know what to expect. So, we hike the bike as much as you can, and then you ride it again, and then you hop on, hop off. It was a drag. I have to check like how long that section was altogether. There was even one time that I was taking this rightmost lane, and then this guy came past behind me, barreling, beelining right in the middle of a sand pit. And sure enough, his front wheel got stuck. He endoed. He flew over his handlebars, and how it looked to me was, it looked like one of those movie scenes, man. It was like perfect. He stuck the landing so well. It was very well executed. I wish we could have caught it in camera, and we're just all laughing about it, because about 20 or 30 yards behind us, there was a guy with a video camera, and then it just happened a little bit later. Anyhow, there's that. It was fun going through some gravel sections, some pavement again. Eventually hit the first aid station at like mile 40. I felt like that was a little bit late for me, because I was going through my water quicker than I thought. And I mean, eventually got there. And my one other issue was, I was like running low in water, and then I didn't want to dilly-dally too much in the aid stations. I really want to treat it as like, okay, this is like a race simulation kind of thing. I mean, it is a race, but I'm practicing how to race it next time or somewhere else. So at tops, I told myself 2 minutes at the most, 2 minutes. So sure enough, filled my bottles, 2 minutes, got on riding again. It was a good thing that there weren't many of us. So at this point, we're not really. I wasn't really riding with people. It just happened that I managed to ride into people, or people ride into me, and then we do our little thing, and then eventually everybody kind of slows down, and then whoever has the most energy pulls off. It was that story all through the day. And the next aid station was around mile 60. That was just enough, I think, or it could have been a bit later. And then after that, we thought it would be at mile 80, and now we're like struggling, because about 40 something miles in, this is around 11 o'clock, I think. Man, it got so hot. And then all I could think of was the 62 and 36 mile racers were just starting by then. I was like, man, they're starting in the middle of the day in this heat. It's a bit cruel having them start that late. So anyhow, went through all that, and then now I'm riding with like a few solid folks. We're taking turns pulling, and then so now, I mean, my energy level was relatively high, although my power numbers were not really showing it. But for as long as I keep it aerobic, that was golden. So that's what I did. And we got too hot. We're expecting the next aid station will be at mile 80. Oh, and before that, so Salsa, one of the expo people, Salsa makes bikes, and they had this section where you go through like some single track or in the woods, and then they had this chase lounge chair, and photographer taking photos. You have to pose with your bike, and then you're on the chair, however way you want it, and they give you this like limited edition patch kind of thing. It was a cool gimmick. I mean, it's a good 10-20 second stop at the most, depending on how elaborate you want your photo to look like. So I'm gonna post that one of these days, because mine's a bit hilarious, I think. Anyhow, got through that, and then next aid station I was really looking forward to was like around mile 80. The annoying part was that we all thought it would be like around mile 80. It never came. I was like, where the hell is this? Where the hell is this aid station? It was actually close to like mile 90. I was like, okay, isn't that a bit too late? Because now you got about 12 miles left, whereas the last aid station you had before was almost 30 miles ago. So that was the quickest stop, and then I had to take a little. That was a longer aid station stop I did, because I had to pee the first time I had to pee, and went on our merry way. And I thought the last 12 miles would be like quick enough, because there would be some pavement still, but also, obviously they found they found more gravel to throw into it. So that slowed pace down a bit. And initially I thought I'd be on pace for like best case scenario about 6 hours. Anyway, I got through like last 4 miles, some gravel, and then last 2 miles was like pavement, and that was it. Home. I was so glad because obviously no mechanicals, didn't crash, nutrition was fairly okay, and even if my ass was just hurting the entire time, so was my like back too. So I gotta figure out some other things with the setup. So overall, it was a very good experience for me. I really didn't know what to expect. Time wise, I thought best case scenario maybe about under 6 hours. Anything under 6 hours would be like the best case scenario for me. Worst case scenario, about, I don't know, 7 hours, I think. But I felt that I could be around 6 to 6.5, and sure enough, with the stops, I ended up like 6:20, something around that. So I was pretty happy with it. Although I could have changed. I need to change like a couple of things. But the bike setup was fine. Although I feel like I could do away with a few things, like better tire selection. I mean, the tires were fine, I think, but I don't know if there would be like a quicker option, you know what I mean? But I opted for these tires because I really, I didn't know surface, and then if it's gonna be too muddy, rainy and all that, you want some knobs, right, to like grip on the gravel. But obviously we didn't have that. It was like so dusty today. I was caked in dust and salt after the thing. So so I'm still on the hunt for the right tires for next time. And the other thing would be my wheels. So I've had these wheels, and these are stock wheels. I've had these since I've climbed with this bike on Mauna Kea, same thing. I rode with this to the cross-country trip to Argentina with the same bike. When we came back, my rear wheel got untrue, probably because of the weight in the back. And a mechanic friend of mine fixed it. The wheel's fine. But I realized after when I was cleaning up my bike earlier, it's like the wheel was kind of dragging, so it got untrue. And I'm like, oh man. So that's time lost right there from brakes rubbing because the wheel is now untrue, right? So I figured I need a more compliant wheel, or like wider rim for these scenarios. So that's our thing. And I think the most important one would be a saddle. Yeah, the right saddle, because oh man, when I rode last week with friends for like 3 hours, my butt was like sore for 3 days after that. So now it's so sore. I couldn't stay comfortable in some parts of it. So I had to, move around just to release the pressure. But overall, it was a great experience. I would consider doing it again. And yeah, gravel racing's fun. I find it fun because by heart, I'm a mountain biker by heart. Gravel racing is not completely mountain biking, but it can share the same aspects to it with regards to riding in dirt. Sometimes there are single track sections, so those factors. And then, it's not completely as snobby, or not really snobby, but not completely as plain Jane as riding on the road. So there's an adventure aspect to it that I dig. So I never understood it until now. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna be a gravel racer now. Yeah, maybe retire from triathlon and just race gravel bikes. Until next time, thanks.